what do you make of Uganda's 2023-2024?
Number one, I think it is prudent to mention that budgets or national budgets are instruments that guide priorities the existing government. That's one. Number two, they are instruments, they are the leading document that guide our development, also priority in that particular year. But generally, it indicates to you the mentality. The allocation would give you a synopsis of the mentality of the existing government. Where do they want the country to go? But also, as we always say, that the character of the team leader or the captain in the pitch shapes us a lot of things. It is not proper to talk about this budget without reviewing the previous budget, because some priorities have looped over. Some projects are ongoing, and so on and so forth. You see, but generally speaking, first, budgets in this country have become like any other thing. Because previously, budgets, when we were growing up, they would tell us that whenever the day a budget day was going to, the budget day, you would find people all over listening to their radios. It was almost a public holiday because people need to know, because the budget reading determines how much they are going to buy salt, how much they are going to buy fuel, how much they are going to buy whatever necessities of life. But today, I am telling you, people will pass a budget and it will do. You would ask even an educated person, and he does not know. And he does not know that everything that is read in the budget is going to determine the way he's going to live, his style of living for that year.
Right. Mr. Asman,
now,
okay. First of all, if I can interject just a little bit, you see, with the passing of this budget,
yes,
we need to see the speaker saying that there are some mafias that could be,
that's exactly what I was going. That first of all, this budget, there is extremely so many unusual things that have happened. Number one, the way you see this, the first time a budget. First of all, okay, officially it was last week, but I will tell you that they passed this budget. Actually, this budget they passed last week was just a review. This budget was passed in February, you remember? Yeah. Feb, March, around there. The first one in the history. So that's one. Number two, the speakers, you heard what the speaker was saying. The speaker was like, the way the budget is being passed, very unusual. It looks like there are some mafias. And I also, even the Minister of Finance, there were some of you in the media were interviewing the Minister of Finance, Matia Kasaiza, and they were saying, there are also certain things I did not know about the budget. Now, if the Minister of Finance, the Speaker of Parliament, are questioning this budget, so whose budget is this? That's number one. So everybody should be asking whose budget is this? Who passed this? Who generated the priorities and areas that this budget is going to implement?
Now. Okay.
Now, when we go to the specifics, you see, you remember I started by saying that the allocation will give you the kind of mentality we want to do. You see, the framers of our constitution, when they put term limits, which we removed way back, I want to presume that one of the reasons they put it is because they thought that we would periodically have team leaders in terms of government whose priorities are in different sectors and therefore would balance up different sectors, and that would be reflected in the budget. Now, unfortunately, the team leader we have had now coming to 40 years is a team leader whose mentality and the bias is within security. And that's why security will always have the lion's share. Secondly, You never, you see, in the last budget, we had 7 point something trillion in classified budget.
Expenditure.
Yes. This time, it has increased around to 11 or something. Now, nobody, that. Secondly, in the last budget, the president, I'm telling you now, we are going to specifics breakdown. The president had 676 billion as State House. That was official, the original one. Now, by the time the supplementaries, plus supplementaries, it came to 1.13 trillion. 1.13 trillion as the presidency. Now, of course, I was doing a calculation with my friends and we were saying if that meant that the president was using 3.09 billion every day. And for per hour, if we say he's using it for 20, if we are considering 24 hours, that would mean about 129 million per hour. If it is 12 hours, that would mean 258 million per hour. You get it? That means your president is using 258 million per hour. The same president who is telling you, please, the resource envelope is small, please stop eating bread, eat cassava. Now, that's it. So when you go into the backbone of what we used to call the backbone of our economy, which is agriculture, which would really be the leading sector in determining or shaping our development trajectory. Because as of now, when you look at, including this budget of 52 plus trillion, you would think that security is the one that is shaping our development path.
In fact, just hold it there, Mr. Asman. Looking at security, it has been allocated 3.8 trillion Uganda shillings, and that is from 5 trillion Uganda shillings as of last year.
Yes.
With this allocation for security, how does it reflect on the security systems of Uganda, on the security, I would say, situation that we currently have in Uganda, even before we speak about the backbone?
Of course, the allocation. But you see, worldwide, security analysts, when they want to know the future, the security, the stability of that country, they look at its budget allocation. First of all, when they look at your budget allocation, they will begin thinking, for example, if you look at the US, if they want to, if for example, Republicans are in government, and they look at they say, okay, it looks like they are projecting to attack a certain country because of they are expecting some wars, or there is going to be security reform in A, B, C, D. That's what they would say. Now, when you look at our security, of course, from 5 to 3, no big difference. There will always be supplementaries. That you should always keep in mind that they bring this, but you see, you look at you look at the budget allocation, or the budget is increasing, but where are the tax? The tax, look at, because this should come with the tax base.
In fact, I think we are soon, of course, expanding to the tax base, to the functions of URA in Uganda. You know, if at all, if the increased squeezing of Ugandans to provide these taxes is justifiable, because we understand this is a budget that, of course, is specifically focusing on paying debts in Uganda. But give me paint for me that picture in regards to security and the budget allocation of 3.8 trillion.
Yes, it will look like either we have a threat. You see, there is some country, or there is some force, or there is some group that is threatening.
We have the ADF.
We have had the ADF for the last 38 years. 38 years. And when they were real threats, you know, and you know, this defeats part of the rhetorics from government. There was a time they told us the ADF were only remaining about 78 men. They told us, security told us in this country, that there were less than 100. And when they went, they said, we have reduced their number to a capacity ADF does not has to even attack anywhere here. They told us it was security. It was from spokesperson of UPDF. Now, to date, if you are going to say you are increasing whatever because of ADF, they would know, okay, this would be a very classified thing to tell us that, you see, we have a group A, we have group B, we have group C that is threatening our security, and therefore we need to. But you see, security, the purpose for classified expenditure is to cater for those. Number two, you see, a country that is going for war, a country that is going for war, or a country, because there was a time all our neighborhood was more insecure, but our budget was lower. Today, we have the East African Standby Force, at least holding our shoulders in the DRC. Kenya is stable. South Sudan is now a little more stable. Rwanda and so on are stable. So who are threatening our borders to justify this whooping budget? Yet our infrastructure is all collapsing.
Mr. Suman, what if put it in this perspective that could maybe government be doing this to continuously keep Uganda's stability when it comes to security? Because for the last 38 and more years, the NRM government has constantly focused on security, and when you look at the budget for security, it has year in, year out been one of the highest.
Now, that is looking at security from the gunmanship mentality. Now, there is what we call security and defense, and that's what I always challenge my guys in government. I tell them, you see, if you want to look at security, is slightly bigger than what these guys are looking at. Security is not just having big guns, big choppers, and big. Security is the welfare of the general citizens. Now, if you think you will have guns, tanks, choppers, MiGs, and so on to maintain, to suppress citizens that are hungry, citizens, the youth that don't have jobs, you cannot allocate that money to create employment, and you think the alternative of creating employment to keep these guys busy is to buy guns to suppress them? That's not security. The security is not just buying guns and having so many tear gas on the way just to arrest and incarcerate people doctors who want to go. Teachers today want to strike. Doctors have been on strike. Prosecutors have been strike until now, I am told. And that speaks to the tax base. We thought we were expanding tax base. Prosecutors want to be exempted from paying tax.
They were exempted from paying tax.
Now, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that kind of scenario? So security is welfare, security is health, security is employment. Part of the open door policy in regard to externalization of labor is because this government, by the way, this is not something people speak, this government wants to ease pressure of the youth who are unemployed in this country.
Mr. Asman.
Now, part of this money they are putting to buy guns and MiGs to keep citizens at bay would be, the pressure would be, okay, allow others to go, but to create employment opportunities. Because let me tell you, the money we use, like colleagues were saying, some of them were rightly saying at Parliament, the money we are using to maintain the presidency, and I'm saying the presidency deliberately, not a president, presidency. I am telling you, every day you would be creating thousands of jobs if you focused properly.
Then what should be guiding the budget priorities of Uganda according to you now? Maybe agriculture, because we did hit on it a little bit.
Now, number one, you would look at where are your citizens most active. Now, today, of course, understandably, our citizens are most active in agriculture.
Yeah, sure.
Now, so a reasonable amount of effort would be focused on agriculture because number one, it is ensuring that your biggest population are employed there. But number two, it is also ensuring that food security. Because it is food, why they call it food and security? Because it also has an aspect of state security. Because a hungry population will not be tamed. That's number two. Priority number two would be around the mining sector. Let me tell you, as need national economic empowerment, we deliberately, during our formative stage, that was last year, we instituted what we called a national mineral mapping. And I am telling you, this country is rich. That's where we discovered that actually the gold sector in this country, which is not reflected by even in this budget, I have not seen it. It brings in about 6.7 trillion. 6.7 trillion. No, 9.7 trillion, which is not even reflected in our income budget. In our income budget, it doesn't reflect. So meaning that this 9+ trillion is somebody's pocket change. Somebody is simply taking it away. Now, if you focused in agriculture, then you focused on the mineral, that means you will now get enough money from the mineral sector. Properly, you've babied it very well. You will get now, the issue of security will now not be a problem because you will now be having money. Because we are a very rich country in regard to mineral sector. So mineral would bring us income, it would expand our tax base, it would also bring employ people. But now, mineral sector in this country is somebody's person. You do know that when in this budget, when we made a little noise, and they were supposed to begin taxing, because gold is not taxed, you know, in this country. Now, when we made noise about gold, they proposed taxing gold per kilogram of gold to tax $200. And you know, a kilo of gold is in excess of $500,000. Now, 200 so, but to show that they are so shameless, even the 200 eventually they scrapped and gold is still untaxed. So those are sectors you want to. The third one would be education, because education is now. Right now, you know that today, there are so many, like in Britain and other countries, are rejecting Ugandan academic papers that they
was
fake.
one of the headlines that
you need to reform this education. Those guys know, don't let them not have an excuse of higher council education and so on and so forth. These guys are duplicating courses. What would be a course unit is now. So, as a country, you need to do your budget in capital development. Education is at the fore at capital development. But you see, you go to education, and a day a child, a whole year, is being allocated 10,000. So education is being left out. So, and if you do not focus your budget and towards the education sector, capital development area. So where should your budget be? Where is your going? What is going to be? Because today's population or world is going digital is for educated people.
Mr. Osman, now that let us speak the budget cuts that we are experiencing in this financial year. You did hint on agriculture. You did hint on education. Let me hint on health.
Yes.
We are experiencing different budget cuts. Are you pleased that Uganda is now focusing on paying the debts it owes?
You see, first of all, the debt we got, first of all, they were not even justified debts in the first place. We need to begin from there. That if you looked at the reasons given, first of all, to borrow that money, the money was borrowed to use, I think there was, the former IGG Muliagonjo or somebody who said most of the money that were being borrowed, 60-something% was first being eaten. Now, you borrow, you eat, and then the refinancing of the debt becomes. I remember Kizza Besigye, Dr. Kizza Besigye is the one who one time said, you people, you borrow this government all the money, but when we come into government, we shall not pay because of how you're doing it. We didn't need to borrow that money in the first place. Okay, there was what budget or project that we needed to borrow. Let me give you a project like this Northern Bypass thing here. Northern Bypass, we borrowed money from the World Bank for 2 how do they call it? Is that dual carriage or something? Because this side and this side. Dual carriage. Now, when we got the money, and that was under the stewardship of Minister Nasasira, we ate an entire one carriage that was stolen. Now, the one carriage that was constructed very shallow. Now, we up to second. Now, when we went back, when the evaluators from World Bank came and so on, they realized the thing is stupid. Now, the government again panicked. Then we went again to borrow another money for 2 carriage, knowing that they had eaten the other one. So again, they had to eat one entire one, and the road is being constructed. A 22-kilometer road has been constructed for 11 years. It is incomplete today. Now, tell me, how would you borrow? Now, you see now, we are paying that money for purposes that was not for national interest. Look at, you talked about our health. Let me tell you, when you go to our hospitals, it is really agonizing. It is troubling, let me tell you. I had a colleague who visited me from Kenya the other day. And we were moving around, and you see, when he told me, he specifically came and said, I want to see Makerere University, I want to, I want to see Mulago Hospital. Now, when we went to Makerere, he admired, of course, some of the things, and when we went to Mulago, after going to Mulago, so when we were coming back, the guy was just quiet. He didn't say anything. So I kept asking him, what's the problem? So he didn't say anything. Now, eventually, I went into stories telling him this and so on about our country and so on and so forth. So, but, telling somebody something and you think he's going to respond to around what you're talking about, then he tells me, but Honorable, don't you think you people have a big problem in this country? I said, what? You people can be in this state. Look at your roads and look at your hospital. And you think you people are normal. And you people look happy.
Uganda is a happy country.
You just told me, and you people look happy with this state. So it is troubling. It is troubling that we can have a budget, discuss a budget when our own, that is,
So you're not
cannot
pleased.
have what
You're not pleased with the government now, providing an alternative by reducing on the budgets. How is even
no.
The
There was no
issue
reduction.
going to be,
Let me tell you, there was no reduction. There was no reduction. What is now being is burden. Let me tell you, whatever they have done is first of all going to be increased through supplementary, but also too, we also must give it a benefit that some of the statements being made by some of our people. Remember, it was not Tinkasimile, the other rebel MP who comes from Zimbabwe.
Oh, Theodore,
who said in 2000 and I think 2015 budget, who said, no, this budget, what these people do, and by then that was these people being rebel. And he said, what people do, they allocate in all these sectors, eventually then again they take and take it as security. I hope that is not true, but that was Theodore Sechikubo, who is an insider. First of all, he's NRM, he's been in parliament for a long time. I don't have to doubt him. So there is no reduction in this. Let me tell you, any reduction and increment in productive sector, in productive sectors would come with the correlating increment in terms of the quality of services. This budget, the previous budget, the budget we are concluding, do you know that 73% of that budget was consumption for consumption?
True.
Now, this one here, you're saying they have reduced. They have reduced, it is now about 71%. Now, how would you do a budget where 70+% is for consumption, and you think you're going anywhere?
How is all this going to be, affecting the ordinary Ugandan? How can Ugandans, of course, see to it that they can come around the situation?
Well, the only way it is going to affect Ugandan, it's going to be negative. They have increased the target for URA, and yet our tax base has shrunk. last time, URA, for the last about 4 years, URA has always been gesturing a photo. Pitfall. And understandably, people should understand that the global economy has also shrunk. Now, you cannot say your global economy has shrunk. You are not including sectors that bring money, but you're expanding, you're putting pressure on URA, and each time they put pressure on URA, they will go down to the ordinary taxpayer in Chikubo. You go to Chikubo now, and you see how many people who are there, before COVID and post-COVID. Let me tell you, shops around your village, probably, or even your colleagues who used to have some businesses who no longer have them. Do you know URA? I have let me use my party president. URA even went to his account and do you know deducting taxes ahead of.
And that is
that
your party
is all,
president, Joseph Kabureta.
Kabureta's account. They simply went to the bank, and people no longer want to even go and bank their money because of that kind of thing. Now, they deducted. Now, when he goes there, they told him, okay, we can talk around this now. That means we can begin counting.
Is URA doing their job credibly, or they are,
No.
Also now?
URA, first of all, are under pressure. You would understand the pressure they are under because they are given unrealistic targets and their grazing areas do not expand. And that, I mean, the tax base has not expanded. It has rather shrunk. That's one. Number two, you see, when you go to, you look at, because URA does not do its work in a vacuum. It does its work. The success of URA will be seen from the success of our businesses. Now, let me tell you, the big business people in this country, first of all, do not pay taxes.
That is why I'm coming to incentives. Speak to the incentives.
Now, first of all, live upon the incentives. I am talking about evading taxes. We have had ministers, we have their cars. The other day I was driving from my office coming back, then I found a vehicle of 2018, make 2018 TX, but it has UAT. Then I told a colleague, said, now, the UAT, no, it was UAF. I said, UAF, a number plate that came out in 2004, 2005. It cannot be on a car which is 2018 make. Then I told him, you look around. When he looked around, the car does not have third party, does not have anything. Of course, the easiest reasoning is that car could be for security, okay? But it could also be that it evaded the taxes and because it is for a big person. That is one. Number two, that's around tax.
All those are narratives.
Yes. Now, number two, the issue of tax incentives in this country. We have, that according to available statistics, we lose 9 trillion to tax. These guys will give tax holidays every year. Now, and yet, the statistics also says that all those, I think that was U-Boss something, 2020, that says most of these companies and organizations will give tax holidays immediately after completing the period we have given them, either shift to their country or re-register the same. So we do not get value for the incentives we gave them.
Should they be, averted to Ugandans mainly and not the foreigners?
Of course, that speaks to our crooked and unthought out investment policy, especially in regard to the foreign direct investment. All countries in the world, most of them, I will say, let me not say all countries, because there are countries like Uganda, there are those that look like Uganda also. When you are going to, when you want to invest in the country, there are certain conditions, including number one, having partnering with the citizen. Number two, the issue. But for us, number one, you can come simply with your skin. First of all, they give you the money from here. You even it is so terrible that the president, part of the attractive, the good words the president tells investors is that, you see, our country is good. It doesn't have minimum wage. It doesn't whatever you to bank the money here. You can even repatriate all your money. And so how can a country, how can you call in foreigners, invest in your country, and you allow them to repatriate all the money? First of all, they register that country solely as theirs. And then you have no... So for citizens, you don't care about them, in other words. It can't be like that. You cannot run an investment. That's why you cannot have serious investors. Actually, the only reason we don't have serious investors is because of that, number one. So we shall have crooked people, the penates who will come, do what when the time for paying taxes come, they will go away because there is no condition that keeps them here. Number three, the issue of you see, we have companies in this country, foreign companies in this country, that don't even have a kiosk. All they do is do business here.
That is briefcase companies.
No, some of them are the so-called biggest taxpayers by then in this country. I don't want to name them. I don't want to name them on air. But you see, they don't even have a kiosk here. All they do, they hire spaces where they operate from. They make all the money here. And if anything happens, sure.
Now, Mr. Osman, finally on the budget, because I want us to hit a little bit on the Uganda Human Rights Commission report in regards to human rights. Does this budget speak to unemployment, which is one of Uganda's biggest problem? And of course, with the investors coming in, with them being given incentives to provide employment opportunities, how is this budget speaking to unemployment? No, it doesn't.
It doesn't at all. It doesn't because there are programs. There are programs like PDM, for example. Those are programs that you would see or think that are programs created to solve the unemployment problem. But programs themselves, you see, and Kiwanda Subi is, one time he said he is the number 3 of the country. I was watching him and I laughed. He was riding the same narrative we've told them. That you see, PDM, in the way it was brought, could not solve the unemployment problem. Because you see now, PDM would now be part of the programs that would be in the budget.
It is basically to alleviate Ugandans from poverty.
Now, number one, it cannot be in the way it was conceived, especially its implementation framework. Because the implementation framework of PDM would only speak towards, if you wanted it, should be speak towards a cooperative. Now, and a cooperative is not, you don't form a cooperative by putting money. A cooperative is formed by organizing communities. You support them with the infrastructure. Now, 2, there should be something around which people cooperate. Now, here, you don't say people are cooperating around money. because money is not something that generates interest around the cooperation. So it is a fallacy. It is not going to work. Looking at the budget, if you look at the allocation itself, the different allocation itself, it doesn't speak to that, because we know areas which would spark employment opportunities, and that's not where government has looked.
Mr. Smart, let us just move a little bit away from that, but of course, still in the country, Uganda. The Uganda Human Rights Commission, the body that does, of course, oversee the protection, the fighting for the alleviation, the guarding of human rights, which are enshrined under Chapter 4 of Uganda's Constitution. They did release a report that was last week, and I would like to know, what do you make of the report? What do you make of the activities of the mandate of the Uganda Human Rights Commission?
Well, number one, I have not read that report.
Maybe just a little bit of some of the insights. It does still indicate that police is the biggest violator of human rights in Uganda. It also does recommend that there should be the demolition of some police, structures, that is housing units, which seem to be dilapidated and of course cannot house police officers anymore. Those are some of
yes, those ones I had also seen in the media, but me, I want to read the report. I want to read the report so that I understand how they got their conclusion. That's number two. But you see, for me, I lost faith in the Uganda Human Rights Commission, especially of my big sister Mariam. Now, when Mariam arrived at the Human Rights Commission, Mariam became an NRM activist in the commission. Although right now I sympathize that she says she fears going for a meeting because one of her commissioners has guns. But you see, when people were being kidnapped here, and let me use the word droned here, some colleagues went to Mariam, and Mariam was like, you people should stop over making noise. You're spoiling the name of our security apparatus. She said that. And I said, is it this true? Then Mariam started being a defender of human rights violators. You see, and like I said, a team leader normally tailors how people view you. Now, I know there are so many good commissioners, and I know by them, some of them are my personal friends, personal relatives, personal colleagues, personal everything. But you see, the activities and the scope, I know that apart from mentioning police, of course police has always been. By then, even without research, you will know that police will always be the biggest human rights violator. But also number two, of course, they talked about the welfare and so on and so forth. But for me, I would want Uganda Human Rights Commission to go back to its mandate as given by, is it, I think that's 61 or something? The Constitution. The Constitution. Let us take it as a chapter 4 of the Constitution. No, specifically, no. The chapter 4 talks about the Bill of Rights. But Human Rights Commission, I think around... No, it's around the 50. 61, something like that. It is elaborate on the functions of Uganda Human Rights Commission. Very elaborate. It gives what the Human Rights Commission should be. Now, if you look at all those functions, which are about 7 or so, the only one Human Rights Commission does is giving periodic reports, which reports they don't even know where to place it. One of the issues the report did focus on is issues of public servants, the way they've been handled, and it was read that some public servants have gone at least 10 years without salary increments, and of course, that affecting their economic situation, their work rate, and everything. Now you see, do you think this is also... Now you see, that is would have been more of the mandate of the Equal Opportunity Commission. Yes, that's number two. That would have been, if Human Rights Commission wanted to address that, their recommendation would have been maybe a proposal of establishing the Salaries Commission in this country. Because you can't say the public servant. Their mandate is not, it is, the mandate of the Human Rights Commission is to protect individual rights against the state. It is the state that is, human rights is supposed to be in the middle there. Now, if you look at what they're talking about, welfare of the police, this and so on, I may think their recommendation would have been a little bigger. Now, what we need in this country in regard to salaries of workers, let me call them workers, because I know even workers who are working in the private sector, some of them are working in a very pathetic situation. They actually need, their welfare needs to be addressed. And therefore, we need a legislation, but we also need maybe a salaries committee. Of course, that would come with the legislation, with an act.
Of course, when you say legislation, that calls for the minimum wage bill.
Minimum wage bill, which was in 2013 shot down by the NRM, the chairman NRM. Shot down, he called his caucus and shot it down. But you see, the Human Rights Commission in this country, because they are basic things, the state, look at how our people, especially in the opposition, we agreed to go into multi-party democracy. Now, when we go into multi-party democracy, we have international conventions which have been domesticated in this country. Now, why would the state deliberately want to stand in between what the parties should be doing and what the constitution or the laws are saying? Those would be the concerns. Number two, look at individual rights, how they are being violated in this country. Let me tell you, we have a policeman, even at the level of borders and so on. How a person in uniform looks at you he has no disregard for the law. You heard what interviews by Mr. Mala after he retired, when he said when court issued an order that they evacuate Kizza Besigye and Kizza Besigye escaped, when he came back, he told his bosses, and his bosses told him that, you see, from now on, don't care about courts. They would rather question you on violating court orders than talking about the man escaping from you. Those are small things that the Human Rights Commission should concern itself. Human Rights Commission should be concerning about the rights, the Bill of Rights, because they are not supposed to invent a will. They are supposed to look at what is written in the books and implement them as they are.
Mr. Asman, I would say maybe let me take those as your last remarks, because we are at time, but this is a conversation that, of course, we need to expound on maybe any other day, so hopefully you can be able to come back here and give us those insights. But we do appreciate you for making time for us today morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, that is what we had to discuss with you today. And of course, remember, you can always get involved in our discussions, but of course, by visiting our Facebook page, that is BTM TV in capital letters, and trying to engage us on some of the issues we do get to deliberate on here live on the Daybreak Show. I'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place, but for now, I would say have a good morning. Thank you so much, sir. It was a good discussion, also human rights. I didn't know you were so